Hello and welcome to GP 101, where we're going to show you the absolute most basic steps you need to know to build your model. First off, thank you for choosing to take our class. If you found this video organically and you're not part of our painting class, maybe you should check out the info in the description, I don't know. The first step in any build is, well, opening the box. But don't open those runner bags just yet. It is always a good rule of thumb to get all of the bags out and take a look at the manual first, checking the runners against the manual to the best of your ability using this page here. Check to make sure that all of the runners, stickers, and accessories are in there, and if there are any missing or if you see any damaged or defective parts, make sure to leave the kit as is and contact the store you got it from in case you want to make a return. Make sure you do this with any model kit you get, especially before you toss it in the backlog, because there is a time limit on returns and replacements. If everything's fine, or if you're fine with any of the damage or defects that you see, you can go ahead and rip those bags open. These plastic sheets, runners, or some say, sprues, hold pretty much every part of the model you're about to build. They're usually split up by letters, and every part on them is numbered. This first step tells us to get part A9, so we'd go find the A runner and look for part 9. This part, PC123A, is the opposite, and it tells us to choose this sheet, PC123, and find the part labeled A. You'll find these PC, short for polycap, runners in older kits, and they're made of a softer plastic because they're primarily used in joints and need the friction to hold properly. Try to be careful when handling polycaps. If you insert them improperly or misalign the pegs, the piece can deform and potentially be unusable. We recommend finding what part goes into the polycap, like the corresponding ball joint or, for the cylinder types, a properly sized length of runner, and leaving it in the polycap while you squeeze the outer parts together. There are rare cases where runners are split down the middle and can have B1 and B2 on the same sheet, so if you're having trouble finding one, make sure this isn't the case. Now, the foundation of any clean, straight build is using the proper tools. We've all been there, opening one of these boxes and not knowing what to do, so you get to tearing the pieces out of the runners with your bare hands, or grabbing your parents' nail clippers and nail files to clip them out and sand down the excess. The latter is a step in the right direction, and the absolute basics any builder should own are a pair of plastic nippers, sanding materials, a blade, and we also recommend a parts separator of some kind. Nippers come in all shapes and sizes, but you'll most often run into the side cutter type. These are specially made to deal with cutting plastic, so they're definitely a better option from similar but harsher wire cutters. And with nippers, you usually get what you pay for. Here we have Bandai's entry nipper as well as their build-up nippers. Both are decent, sturdy, double-bladed types, which means that both sides of the nippers have blades on them. You'd think having a blade on both sides would mean cleaner cuts, but that's not always the case. For example, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Godhand's SPN 120 nippers, which are high-end single-blade nippers that cut through plastic like butter, but have an extremely fragile blade that can break if used improperly or if used to cut clear plastic. No matter which option you end up going for, technique is what really matters here. You're going to want to start with a cut slightly away from the piece itself. Try aiming close to where the connecting gate begins to turn into the cylindrical piping of the runner itself. If you cut too close, you might stress the surface of the piece, and cutting too far risks deforming the blades if the plastic is too thick. Now repeat this for every gate on the piece. We also recommend starting from the thinnest gates and cutting the thicker gates last. This way, a thin gate isn't bending under the weight of the whole piece. You can also leave any nubs that are attached to connector pegs and ball joints for last. These parts are usually covered by something, so stress marks won't be quite as noticeable. Once the piece is free, use your nipper to cut the remainder of the gate, or the nub, much closer to the piece, but not directly against it, leaving just a little bit behind. Repeat this for every nub on the piece. Next, you have several options. Some people like to clean the remainder of the nub using a blade. Be very careful with this method, and always direct the blade away from your body. There's also different preferences with blade types, from chisels to straight blades, but we found the curved blades to be particularly useful, especially when the nubs are on rounded surfaces. The other, more thorough method is to use sanding tools, whether it be sanding sticks, sandpaper, or sanding sponges. Sanders are separated by their grit, or how rough they are, and the lower this number, the rougher the surface. We recommend going with 3 different grits, usually 400, 600, and 1000. Thankfully, Bandai and most other brands like Madworks and Godhand sell variety packs that come with these. Starting with the lowest grit, sand the nub in one direction, so that the scratches in the plastic are consistent. Once the nub is gone and the surface is even, brush the remainder off, either with your fingers, a brush, or even the soft backing of a sanding sponge. And then move up to the next grit, in this case 600, and continue to sand in the same direction you were sanding earlier. Repeat this until you've gotten to 1000, where the piece should be relatively smooth. If you want it even smoother, you can use higher polished grits. We've seen some sponges go into the 10,000s, and polishing cloths, even soft denim, are technically high grit polishers. Now, for anyone that doesn't want to repeat the cycle of sanding, brushing, and moving on to a new grit, glass files also exist. If used properly, you can go from nub to gloss polish in just a few swipes. These have definitely tripled my build speed, but the drawback is that they have a good chance of scratching up the plastic a bit more than sandpaper, and that the sanded areas will look much glossier than the parts around them. We recommend pairing glass files with these, eraser balance or white sponges. One side will get the rest of the piece to a polish consistent with what the glass file sanded, and the other side, which is a little softer, can dull it slightly below glossy, which is also just the right surface for paint and primer adhesion. If a piece is too glossy, paint and primer actually have a hard time sticking to it. Aside from sanding down nubs, you'll sometimes see excess plastic in the form of raised lines like this. In very rare cases, they might be details, so refer to reference images on the box, but if you don't see these on any reference photos, these are likely mold lines, or sometimes referred to as flashing. These lines are the result of little bits of excess plastic flooding into where the two halves of a model kit mold line up, and they're completely normal. Some people leave them as is, but it definitely helps to get rid of these so they don't show up after you're done painting. You can sand them away as you would any nub, but an easier way to get rid of them is to take the edge of your knife and drag it backwards across the line, shaving it away without affecting the piece too much. If sanded properly, the surface of the piece should look something like these results here. The results can vary wildly due to experience, tools, luck, or even the color of the plastic, since some colors are more prone to stress marks than others. Our main goal here is to get the surface mostly uniform so that nothing from the nub is left protruding, but also taking care not to sand so much that the piece doesn't align with others. Now, all that's left is to take it easy, pay attention to the manual, and build the rest of your model. If you're going to be painting your model in our class, make sure to avoid putting on any stickers or decals even if the manual tells you to. If you aren't going to paint this, just match the stickers using the guide. Some stickers might be designated by letter and number, but some old ones are actually in Japanese. Also, be sure to pay attention to any symbols in the manual that denote a specific order to put the pieces in, or to pay attention to the orientation of the pieces. This is especially important in older model kits, because they sometimes don't have a number order for pieces to go in, and you can easily forget something like a polycap or joints or inner vents or something. I've forgotten polycaps all the way back in 1999, and I still sometimes forget them today, so don't feel bad if you do. This is why we recommend having a part separator on hand. And one last thing, you may be tempted to clip out all of the pieces first and treat it like a Lego set. Even if you have really good object recognition, we strongly advise against this. This just increases the chances of one of these pieces flying off into the abyss, where all other lost Gunpla pieces end up. Now you're all set to join our painting class. Make sure there are no stickers on your model, no panel lines, and no paint, whether it be with markers or otherwise. If you're comfortable with disassembly, taking off the V-fin or other fragile parts and wrapping them in a paper towel or bubble wrap might be a good idea. Be sure to pack your model kit safely in a way that extremities like V-fins and fragile pegs won't break. If you're not taking our painting class and you'd like to learn some steps you can take to prep for painting, be sure to watch our next video on paint prep techniques. As always, thanks for watching.